Is it possible to make the perfect pie crust using 100% freshly milled wheat? And you know what I'm talking about. That pie crust that is delicious and flaky and does not break when you're rolling it out, and perfect for single and double pie crust. Well, I'm here to tell you it is possible. I have finally figured it out, and I'm going to be sharing that with y'all, the recipe I have for the perfect pie crust for all of those holiday pies or anytime you want a pie in this video. Hey y'all, welcome back to Grains and Grit. My name is Felicia, and on this channel we talk about real whole grains from a biblical perspective. On this channel I teach you all about milling your own grains, consuming real whole grains, and consuming that daily bread that Jesus told us to pray for every single day. So I'm really excited to finally share this video with y'all because I have done a pie crust video in the past using freshly milled wheat, and it worked, but I could not use it for double pie crust because it was constantly falling apart on me. The only way to have made it work is I could roll it out in the pie pan, which, works great for sweet potato pie, chocolate pie, any of those pies that you need without that second layer. But, it still wasn't perfect. You couldn't quite roll it out, and it was a little frustrating for me. So I didn't really make pies a lot until now, because I have finally done so much research to find out how to make the perfect pie crust using 100% freshly milled wheat. And good news as well is there's different types of fats that you can use for this as well, based on your personal preference. So as always, the printable recipe will be down below, and I'll be sharing with you guys my favorite pecan pie recipe that I made for Thanksgiving this year. It's not my own recipe, but I will have it in the description box below, and I may make it for you in this video as well. Now, do you know that a special pecan pie that is a traditional Florida cracker pecan pie using cane syrup, Florida cane syrup? I actually have had that recipe on my website, but it's locked up in the Granny Bunch. So for those of you who are my grannies and are part of the membership group, the Granny Bunch, be sure to check out that recipe in your member portal. Now, with this recipe using freshly milled wheat, it is not only the recipe, but also the technique that I found that makes a difference. So here's what you're going to need. And there's a few options you have here. First of all, the wheat that we use is soft white wheat. That is just the best. It mills very fine. It's a light flavor, and soft white wheat works out for your baked goods anyway. Next up, in order to make the wheat berries into flour, you do need your grain mill. And then you also, I highly recommend having some sort of mixer that makes it go easier. You can also do this in a food processor if you have it. Those instructions will be in the printable recipe to help you do it in a food processor. And of course, you can also do it by hand as well, but just requires more muscle strength. So besides your wheat berries, your grain mill, you're also going to need 1 3/4 cups of butter. And I like to go ahead and cut it up into little cubes. This equals to about 3.5 sticks of butter. You can also use lard or coconut oil, same amounts, but if you use coconut oil, do not use the ultra virgin coconut oil, because that coconut flavor will come through. So if you're using that, keep that in mind, unless you like a coconut flavor to your pie crust. You also need 1 tablespoon of sugar. I do prefer using cane sugar. 1 tablespoon of an acid. I use apple cider vinegar. You can also use white vinegar. I just prefer to put in apple cider vinegar whenever I can. 2 teaspoons of salt. I do prefer Redmond's. And 1 egg, out of the shell, of course. And then you'll need about 1/2 cup of ice cold water. This will vary depending on how it's working with your dough, but I like to have about 1/2 cup, a little more, and keep it with ice cold. Now, while I'm processing everything, make sure that your ingredients, you want them all to be cold. So that includes keeping the butter in your fridge until you need it. That also includes our flour. So I'm actually going to be milling up our flour. We're going to need about 4 cups of flour, which is about 3 cups of wheat berries that we mill. And all these details will be in the recipe. But Whenever you mill flour, it is warm, and I don't want it warm because it's not going to help incorporate those ingredients. So we're going to be milling our flour, and I just place it in a Ziploc bag, a bowl, whatever you want to do. And then we're going to be putting it in our freezer for about 30 minutes or more. If you want to do this on a different day, just keep it in your freezer so it's nice and cold. So we're just going to go ahead and get this wheat berries milled up. This is obviously more than 3 cups. I need flour for something else later than the day. So this is Miss Wanda, my Wonder Mill Impact Mill, fine flour every time. We're just going to put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in the freezer for about 35 minutes. And after 35 minutes, it's nice and cold and exactly what I need it for. So we're going to grab, this is my Bosch Universal Mixer Plus. You're going to want to start with your whisk attachments. And we're first going to add in our flour. This is 4 cups of the soft white wheat flour, and then we're going to add in our sugar and our salt. Give this just a quick mix, and then we're just going to add in whatever fat that you are using. Now, a note about this: if your butter or your fat is frozen, do not use your whisk attachment. Use a food processor or cut it in by hand. Otherwise, you could mess up your whisk. But I just wanted to show you right here. This is after about a minute, and to show you that this is not cut in all the way. You still have these larger chunks. We want smaller chunks, and this is how it is a few minutes later. This is what we're looking for. So they are like pea-shaped type sizes. It's throughout all of the flour, and it's just this really crumbly mixture. And this is what it looks like when your fat has been thoroughly mixed in. You're going for a crumbly mixture. Next, if you're using a mixer, we are switching to our dough hook now, and then we're going to add in our egg and our vinegar mixture in here, and then we're going to mix that in just a little bit. And now we take the lid off, and I like to slowly add in the ice cold water at a time. We're not adding the ice, just the ice cold water. And I'm basically looking for it to where it just starts to kind of come together. You're going to see where it looks more powdery, basically. And then you're going to start seeing, especially on the bottom of this mixture, where it's going to start coming together. Basically, what we're looking for is for you to be able to pick it up and to be able, where it clumps and holds together like you're going to see here. So as you can see, I can pick it up and I can press it, and it's going to hold its shape. It kind of feels like a very soft kind of Play-Doh. I mean, again, it kind of breaks apart. That's why there's a resting time. But it's not crumbly. It's going to hold itself together. And so whenever you get to this, so adjust your liquid, not your flour in this recipe, but whenever it gets to where you need it, we're then going to just cover it up in plastic wrap, and we're going to put it in the fridge to let it rest for 15 minutes. We're going to take a quick moment to thank the sponsor of today's video. This is a new sponsor, 4 Generations Organic Farms. Personally, I love ordering straight from the fields that my wheat berries come from. They are organic farmers, which means that they believe in regenerative farming, and they rotate their crops, and they even give their soil a rest to ensure maximum nutrition. They have actually been on the same family plot since the 1800s in Oklahoma. They, of course, offer many different sizes ranging from 5-pound burlap sacks all the way up to 5-gallon buckets, which are sealed with oxygen absorbers. They've actually cultivated their own wheat berries. So even though you are buying hard red, hard white wheat berries from them, it's their own strand. So those unique flavors are going to be coming out in your bread. And another cool fact about them, they supply wheat berries to King Arthur flour, which I know is a big one, as well as other major organic flour brands. So good news for us home millers, we can completely cut out the middleman and just buy those wheat berries straight from the farmer themselves and mill it into delicious whole grain bread. So to check out 4 Generations Organic Farms, just go to grainsandgrit.com/4 generations, and just enter in grains and grit for the coupon code to receive 10% off your first order. So now it has been 15 minutes. You can keep it longer, but Whenever you want to, just pull it out, and we're going to divide it into 4. This is for our 4 pie crust. If you're really particular, just weigh each one to make sure they're exactly the same size. But from here, I then like to just label some Ziploc baggies with the name and the date and put in the pie crust that I'm not going to be using. This is an excellent recipe to make ahead. And I just put them in there and flatten them out so they will all fit in my freezer nice and flat. And here is the dough that we're looking for. So it's a really soft, it is not dry at all, kind of a good soft Play-Doh. You know how like you have brand new Play-Doh? So here's a little hack. We're going to grab some parchment paper and you're going to get 2 pieces. Now we're going to stop it right here because this is where Felicia made a mistake. You need to lightly flour your parchment paper and then lightly flour the very top. I did not do that and was regretting it later. As you will see, I went ahead and kept this mistake in because I wanted to show you guys what happens if you make a mistake like I do. So the great thing about this is rolling it out in between the lightly floured parchment paper is it makes it so easy to put into your pie pans, especially if you need a double crust to make that top crust look beautiful. So do know that this is a process. You're just going to be rolling it out. It will kind of curl up on you a little bit, just flatten it back out. So we're just rolling it out. Do know it is easier if you roll it out into kind of like an oval first and then just start rotating it around until you're getting a good circle. So this will take some arm muscle here. You're just going to have to keep working it. If the dough is way too soft, you need to put it back in your fridge for maybe about 10 minutes to firm it up because it's got a lot of fat in there. We're going for a soft Play-Doh. So we're just going to keep rolling it out. And then I like just to take my pie pan, put it on top to see if it's the right size. As you can see here, I need a little bit bigger. And this is good. I wanted about 1 or 2 inches bigger than my pie pan. And now here's where I realized I made my mistake by not flouring this, because now we just peel away the parchment paper. It works better on the top, but you can see how it kind of wanted to stick. Not the end of the world, but it definitely was harder on the bottom. So I flip my pie pan over and then just flip it right on top. Obviously, if it's full, you can't do this, but this is an easy way to get it in the pan. And then this is definitely where I was regretting not flouring the parchment paper because it was really sticking to it. But stay tuned because even though this was happening, I was able to fix it. Now, if this was a double pie crust, I would have just redone this whole process because as you can see here, it really started tearing, especially in the middle. So I'm just carefully still trying to pull it away. You can, if this is bugging you, just completely scrape it off the parchment paper, lightly flour the parchment paper, and then roll it back out again. But since this is the bottom crust, this is fine. I just took it and then I just kind of used my fingers to fill in the holes to kind of press it out to make it look nicer. But the bottom line is it was at least big enough where it was hanging over my sides. But you can see here, I just very easily fixed it. No biggie. And now we're going around and I'm shaping it into your traditional pie crust look. You can do whatever shape or design that you want to here. So I just like to kind of fold it, pinch it in between my fingers, and then use my fingers to kind of smooth out any rough spots like that to kind of just make it look prettier. I'm still working on this, but I will say this is a very workable pie dough that makes the edges easy to work with and really makes it nice and pretty. So you're just going to keep, working this around. And then after you get it shaped, now you have a finished pie crust. Do with it what thou wilt. So depending on it, you may need to go ahead and bake it before filling it. I don't need to do that for a pecan recipe, but there it is. It looks beautiful. It was easy to work with. It holds my shape. It's not falling apart once I don't completely mess it up by not flouring my parchment paper. But it just makes a beautiful, beautiful crust. And now time to make the crazy easy pecan pie. So I don't really know where my brain was today because I messed this up too. This is 2 cups of chopped pecans and I went ahead and added the soft white wheat flour to it. Wasn't supposed to do that, but I'm not throwing out some expensive pecans. So I just kind of mix that up, put it in the pie crust, and it actually turned out just fine. So if you make a mistake, don't ever freak out. It happens to the best of us. And here we have the sugar and the eggs. We're just mixing this up all together with the vanilla extract and then a pinch of salt and 4 tablespoons of milk. This is from my cow, Bluebell. Then the melted butter. We just mix all of that together into our custard. Ideally, I should have added the flour in this step, but again, it's okay, not the end of the world. So we're just going to mix this all up, and then we carefully just pour it over the pecans, the chopped pecans that are in the pie crust. Again, this recipe will be linked down below. And then all that we do is that I like to put my pies on a baking sheet, bake it in a 300-degree oven for about 50 minutes, and voila! Ah, she looks beautiful. And can I just take a moment and say, look at this crust, y'all. Look at the crust. It looks so beautiful. I was so excited the first time I pulled this out because this literally is like a picture perfect pecan pie. This is delicious. I love that it doesn't use corn syrup, which is GMO, and I didn't want to use it. And so here you go. Again, this is my husband's favorite pecan pie. Feel free to still adjust the sugar how you want it, but this is great with ice cream, with Cool Whip. I do recommend letting the pie cool down a bit. Otherwise, it's kind of mushy whenever you slice it. But hopefully y'all enjoy this recipe. Let me know how your pie crust go. This is great for any type of pie. This is a wonderful pie crust for many pies. And as always, I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Go enjoy you some delicious pie, and I'll see you next week. Bye.